All right, I'll say, how are you all this day of your time as you create time to exist? Oh, thank you. Allow me to begin by expressing my unconditional love and appreciation for your willingness to co-create this interaction this evening of your time. Only do we respond to the request of the desire to interact in this way, and therefore each and every interaction that we partake of with members of yours and any other respective society that we may find ourselves attracted to is always the result of willingness to communicate and co-creation of the interaction. For I do not in any way, shape, or form inhabit the body of any particular individual. That is not the mechanism through which these interactions take place. What occurs is that any particular biological individual or entity is enabled through a process that we co-create to empathetically mimic my vibration, the vibration of my consciousness, the vibration of what you will refer to as my individuality or signature vibration. So therefore, we co-create these interactions with any respective channel and with any participants in any of these interactions. I therefore thank you once again for your willingness to create such a joyful interaction, which brings us great joy. You really are already containing anything that you seek to know, anything that you seek to experience, anything that you seek to create. I can say this because I understand your nature as a being or a beingness, and each and every one of you are multidimensional, infinite, and eternal by nature. Multidimensional, infinite, and eternal by nature. You are creating what you refer to as your physical lives to, in that way, partake of one option of creation, which is the experience of what you call linear reality. Linear reality contains the idea of what you call space, and therefore the idea of time to seemingly move through that space, experience that space. The creation of before, during, and after is one of the sub-characteristics of linear reality and allows you to experience yourself in such a way, in such a focused manner, whereby, perhaps until you begin to entertain the notion, you are not completely aware that you are indeed multidimensional, infinite, and eternal. The way that you create physical experience, linear reality, finite reality, is through a methodology which, in a sense, it is only an apparency, but in a sense, breaks down your consciousness, or, shall I say, gradiently expresses your consciousness. In other words, you are an all-knowing, all-seeing, simultaneous, multidimensional, eternal, infinite consciousness. Everything that you experience, everything, is contained within your consciousness, within the infinity of your consciousness. From your infinite point of view, there is no within and without, for these are linear terms. But from the viewpoint that you create, linear point of view, your body is literally within your consciousness and not the other way around. Therefore, you already contain it all. All knowledge, all experience, all ideas, and what you call growth and learning is only one of the characteristics of linear reality, and in that sense is truly, from your infinite point of view, an illusion. Remember, you already know it all. Therefore, the idea of not knowing something and then learning it is simply an exploration, an apparency. Therefore, since you already contain it all and express yourself on a line for now, you will create the apparency of learning, but the mechanism is truly simply now expressing more of yourself, more of your infinite potential, more of what you know to be true for you. And therefore, anything that rings true with you, anything that you understand to be true at any given moment, you already contained to begin with. As you begin to entertain the idea of yourself as pure consciousness, as an infinite being, you begin to then attract to yourself within the physical parameters that you set up, resources, information, timings that allow you to begin to express more and more and more and more of who you already are. Not becoming something that you are not, but simply expressing more of who you already are. One way of looking at this is that your vibration as a consciousness begins, as you express yourself in physical terms, as a very contracted vibration. This allows you to experience the apparency of forgetting 99.99999 and so on and so forth % of who you are to experience the infinitesimal decimal place 0.1 of who you now choose to express yourself as. Your vibration, therefore, becomes contracted in a physical sense. As you begin to expand your notion, your acceptability of who you are, your vibrational resonance rises. And you sometimes refer to it as your vibration ascending. Therefore, truly, ascension is simply being willing to express more of who you already are, and is not somewhere to go to from here. Because as you expand the idea of who you are, you understand both here and there exist within you, and there is no separation. Therefore, ascending is truly simply being more of yourself. Individuals, when defining the idea of ascension, will often assume that you are ascending away from this physical reality. Now, that is one way to experience it. That is one idea of the result of the process of ascending or expanding your vibration. But understand in no uncertain terms that you have chosen to be here. Chosen to be here to, again, as we have said, experience yourself in a very specific way, within a reality with very specific parameters. Because of these specific parameters, there are very unique, characteristic advantages to the physical experience. And when in that sense you are all-knowing, all-seeing, simultaneous, there are certain nuances or qualities which have less meaning to you in that state. One is the idea of learning. One is the idea of discovery. One is the idea of surprise. All of these ideas become somewhat irrelevant when you already know it all. So therefore, advantages of what you call the physical reality include discovery, the joy of discovery, and surprise or unexpected outcomes. Therefore, one idea of expressing ascension is to begin to willingly participate in the creation and experience of your reality consciously, because you say so. And very literally, if you are to ascribe levels to the idea of ascension, the first level of ascension would be ascending into living this reality fully, with absolutely no nuance, no hint of the idea of escaping from this reality, of ascending away from this awful place, as you will sometimes refer to it. Therefore, the idea of ascending or expanding your vibration is a joyful celebration of more of who you already are. And nothing need be given up in terms of becoming more of who you already are. Since you contain it all, there is no outside. There is no external. There is nothing but you experiencing yourself. So therefore, you cannot really escape from yourself, because all you would achieve in that sense is going to yourself anyway. Becoming familiar with this idea allows you to now understand in no uncertain terms there is nowhere to go. You're already there. And understanding, deciding that you are already there allows you to experience the advantage of what you have already, in no uncertain terms, created as your reality. Therefore, diving into your reality, being willing to decide your reality, is one way in any given moment that you can transform your reality. Now, I had mentioned earlier on that you break down or gradiently express your consciousness from that one eternal infinite being. The convention through which you express this is what we generally refer to as a triad of belief systems, causing emotions, causing thoughts, and ultimately resulting in action. The paradox of the idea that your reality is the result of your beliefs, emotions, and thoughts and actions is that you do not have one belief and not have another. As I said, you contain it all. You contain all beliefs. Every belief that you can possibly mention or think of, you also contain the opposite belief. I mention this distinction not to confuse you, not to confound and befuddle you, but to simply point out that if you understand that you already contain it all, then there is nothing to get rid of or process through, and there is nothing to gain or achieve. There is simply, and it all boils down to one word, decision. It is up to you in any given moment to express who you prefer to be versus who someone else says you should be, who you think you should be out of obligation to everyone else, or whatever your rationale is for maintaining a state of consciousness which does not allow you to express joy in your life. Your birthright is joy. Your birthright is ecstasy. These are not things you need earn from the ultimate sense of that term. They are things that you will sometimes determine, decide that you must earn. But you are the ultimate dictator of your reality. And therefore, you and only you can decide, well, all right, there is this concept of ecstasy. There is this concept of joy. And once I earn it, I get it too. Well, yes, you contain it all. So if you have that particular approach, you can create the apparency of not deserving your joy, taking a series of steps or actions, earning the deservability to express and experience joy, and then ultimately experiencing the joy. However, the interesting point is that the moment you decide you have earned the right to express your joy and express it, it is truly not the process of having earned it that creates the joy in your life. It is the decision in the moment that you finally make the decision, using the process, using the dues that you have paid as an excuse to now express that joy. All the criteria, all, as you sometimes refer to it as the baggage, is set up by you and you only. In every given moment, you are always expressing some version of who you believe yourself to be. You decide in each and every moment who you are. You create 100% fully who you are in each and every moment. Right now, right now, right now, right now, and right now. For now is the only time that is truly real. Your infinite consciousness is one eternal now, simultaneous now. And as a linear expression, whereby you create the apparency of a linear progression of nows, in each of those nows, which, by the way, are all truly the same now, you make a decision. I am this person. I am this person. I am this way. I am that way. You generally do so through an elaborate set of criteria. Perhaps you say, I am this person because this happened when I was a child. Perhaps you say, I am this person because these circumstances would only happen to a person such as this. Perhaps you say, I am this person because everyone tells me I am. Therefore, they must be onto something. But ultimately, it is your decision. It is your agreement with whatever that criteria may be. I am this person that allows you to express from the all that you contain that version, that person that you are being in that moment. The reason that you experience yourself as a linear being rather than a completely new person with a different body, different hair color, different eye color, different height, different weight, and each and every moment is because as you define yourself in any given now moment, you bring along the baggage. You bring along a conception. Well, you will often say, I am this person who is exactly the same person that I was a moment ago with this one minor little difference. And of course, you will experience the result of that one minor little difference with the apparency of being the same person. Now, we do not share this so that you will spontaneously disintegrate your entire personality and completely transform this reality into an unrecognizable form. That is an option, by the way. But you need not do that in order to recreate yourself according to preference in any given moment. By simply being willing to be mindful of the decision you are making right now, and then perhaps dialoguing with yourself to determine who it is you prefer to be right now, that is all it takes to completely and 100% transform your entire experience right now. You already do this anyway. I am not suggesting or introducing anything that you are not an expert at. And as we sometimes say, you are perfect creators. So when you create misery, it is perfect misery. When you create joy, it is perfect joy. But always does it hinge on the decision in the moment of who you are. In general, how you express this as physical beings is by, number one, making the decision, this is who I am. You then, number two, trust that decision. Well, I must be that person. You then, number three, act or perform an action in your reality with the foundational underlying supposition that this is who I am, and it is those actions in a physical reality that seem to cause results in a physical reality that seems to reinforce in a physical reality the decision. Therefore, whatever you decide, you get. And whatever method that you use as an excuse to make that decision, the decision still sticks. As an example, individuals will often assume, in order to transform to the individual that I prefer to be, I must understand who I am already being. And often they will create an elaborate process, an elaborate and painstaking exploration of why, oh why am I who I am? The interesting thing is that as they are in that sense partaking and creating this process, they continually reestablish the decision, this is who I am. As you dig into your past to determine why you turned out in such an undesirable way, should that be a reproach, you continually reassert who you are. You continually maintain the decision that I am this person that needs so much work. There can be value when you insist on moving on a gradient to all of this type of exploration. However, if transforming instantaneously appeals to you, maybe it doesn't. But if it does, you need not carry around the baggage. All that you need do to transform right now is simply, as you say in your vernacular, take the bull by the horns and simply have your decisions about who you are be conscious and purposeful. Perhaps you may wish to include the idea of factoring in your preference. This is who I desire to be. Now, when you state, this is who I desire to be, you can very, very simply digress, well, this is who I am being, even though I desire to be this person. But that is not the same as simply deciding, this is who I am. Because this is what I prefer, this is how I see myself, this is the person I love. And your willingness to simply cut through the red tape, as you say, and decide, according to preference, who you are, allows you to take the process that you already use to create your own reality and shift it, as you say, on a dime, or any denomination you choose. Therefore, be mindful, should you choose the idea of beginning to express joy and ecstasy in your life, not so much of who you are being, that is not the person you desire to be, but who you do desire to be, who you prefer to be, and therefore, once you decide, who you already are. Any person that you may have been in any other given moment becomes irrelevant to that decision. You become the person you decide in each and every given moment. Now, if you decide what you are saying is nonsense, you get it. If you decide that makes sense, I'll give that a try, then you get the partial result of someone who is trying. If you decide, I already do that, I will begin to do it consciously right now, you are no longer any other person that you have ever defined yourself to be. You are now the preferred you. If you will begin to simply trust that decision, your actions, perhaps subtly at first, but eventually quite blatantly, will begin to reflect the decision. And the actions will have results. And even what you consider to be the external circumstance will seem to change. Now understand in no uncertain terms because of the cause and effect methodology that you create in your reality through your actions. You perform an action which you consider to be a cause, and you get an effect. You have a tendency to judge yourself against the background of your circumstance, of your situation. If you will begin to understand that all those results, all those circumstances truly have no built-in meaning, that they are a neutral set of props, no matter how they may appear on the surface, you then give yourself the power to interpret that circumstance, those situations, through the you that you have now decided to be. Now, if that you happens to be an empowered being, you will say, well, how does this situation serve me exactly as it is? And then get the result of service from a circumstance, service from a situation that you have formerly labeled negative, or formerly labeled as evidence that, well, I guess I haven't changed at all. Understand, by the way, that when you say, I guess I haven't changed at all, what are you doing? You're making a new decision in the moment. And though you did change completely and 100%, that decision, I haven't changed at all, is very similar to, perhaps you can say, previous negative decisions that you have made, and therefore can seem, it is only an apparency, but a very strong one, seem to cancel out the positive change. It does not, for you are still a new being with that much more knowledge. But the idea is, only do you seem to backslide, as you sometimes say, when you are not willing to remind yourself, remember yourself, to maintain the decision of who you prefer to be. And any circumstance that would seem to be negative, seem to be evidence that you are not the new person that you desire to be, is on the flip side of the coin an opportunity to reestablish, to realign to who you prefer to be. By reminding you, though this circumstance may appear negative, the me that I prefer to be no longer chooses to interpret it that way. This is the new me, and therefore my interpretation of any set of circumstance is anew. And therefore, I can derive how each and every circumstance is of service to me. All the while, as you adopt this approach and containing the idea of maintaining who you prefer to be and trusting that and acting that way, you are creating a new set of circumstance. And so the external situation in your life does seem to change, but generally only if you are unwilling to use the first moment that you make the decision, I am now this preferred person, the consciousness of that preferred person to interpret your present set of circumstances, which physically speaking may be resulting from older perspectives. But the new interpretation completely changes the effect of the circumstance rather than perpetuate it on and on and on and on. So no matter what your seeming repetitive issues have been, they only appear to be repetitions because you adopt a similar approach, a similar interpretation, and ultimately a similar set of actions when you realize, here it comes again. Allowing the decision of who you prefer to be to stick simply requires occasional reminders, and that is all. Also, conducive to the change is the willingness to remind yourself to interpret your reality through your new self. Therefore, the initial idea of experiencing what you call ascension is to express yourself in this life as this particular version of your consciousness, fully, purposefully, and being willing to not settle for anything less than getting every positive thing out of it that you can. When you do this, you experience the idea of ascended consciousness while still maintaining the apparency of a physical body and a linear expression. And living your reality in a physical way as a conscious creator, expressing yourself through preference and joy, expressing the things that bring you passion with integrity, for you know everything is one integrated whole, is a type of experience that is, perhaps I will say, to be qualitative about it, and mean this, perhaps you can say a bit loosely, an unrivaled experience in the multiverse. Therefore, you would not want to miss it. My particular society still expresses itself in a physical way. We are, perhaps you can say, on the verge, on the threshold of beginning the first phase of our non-physical expression of consciousness. But we have throughout our history, and I use the term loosely because time has a different meaning for us, still chosen to experience physicality, though from the perspective of conscious creatorhood, from the perspective of taking the advantage of the unique opportunity to discover, the unique opportunity to be surprised, to experience unexpected circumstance, which again I remind you, when you are infinite, all-knowing, that apparency no longer has meaning. Not that you are missing anything in that state, you are not. But the way to create this type of experience is through gradient expression of your consciousness, as opposed to holistic expression of your infinite consciousness. Before we proceed to the interaction, allow me to simply remind you once again that you do, as an infinite being, already contain it all. There is nothing outside infinity. There is no border to infinity. And therefore, anything that you hear, that you discover, is literally that process. It is not gaining something you never had and now do. It is simply discovering, opening up the cover, the veil, to more of who you already are. And therefore, should you feel you have learned something, whether it is in this interaction or any other time in your life, most accurately, you are simply now choosing to express what you already contain. And therefore, you get the credit. You get 100% credit for the creation of your reality, because you 100% create that reality. Therefore, by all means, you can entertain the idea of being willing to be proud and take the credit that you are due. You already create your reality through decision, trust, and action. Therefore, the only slight change that we perceive that you are now unveiling to yourself, and therefore we act as a reflection, is the simple idea to be more conscious about it, to be more definite about it, to make the decision, to allow that decision to stick, and then to have the fun of going around to your reality, interpreting your reality through the decision, and watching in what you call short span of time, your entire realities, life, circumstances, relationships to both yourself and what you perceive to be others, change 100%. Only when you change your perspective, your approach, does there appear to be an external alteration of circumstance. Only when you change who you are, does it appear that others have also changed. For you are now willing and ready to interact with others on that level. For they also, each and every one of you also, are multidimensional, infinite, and eternal beings, and contain every potential, every possibility, every expression. And as you change the vibration through which you express your reality, you also change the vibration through which you interpret it, and therefore are now literally interacting with a different version, different aspect of any individual that you formerly have interacted with, and they seem to have changed. but ultimately it is you. And change is the only constant anyway, or one of them. Therefore, I thank you for being willing to allow me to reflect back to you what you already know to be true for yourself, what you now have chosen as your timing, and allowing me to act as the reflection to mirror back certain very simple ideas. Remember, though your reality may seem to contain the notion of complexity, the mechanism through which you create your reality is quite simple. And when you define who you are, you can now allow for the dispensation of your reality to be simple, to be effortless. Effortless does not mean you will not have surprise. You will not have unexpected ideas. You will not perceive the idea you sometimes refer to as challenge. But effortless is simply an expression of no longer going against the grain of who you know yourself to be. Effort, in one interpretation of that term, is simply going against your own grain, causing a friction, causing a resistance which seems to exhaust you all. Being who you are is quite simple and quite effortless. Therefore, I thank you once again, and for the first time, since I am creating myself anew also, I am always experiencing each and every one of you as a new being, and myself as a new being as well. Nice to meet you all. Shitting.
Elan.
Ace.
Good evening.
And to you.
It's nice to have you in my backyard for a change.
All right. And you as well.
When you talk about as we change and experience a different aspect of ourselves and then interact with other people, we are experiencing a different aspect of them. That clarifies things for me very well into how I can understand that apparent change in people.
All right. Well, one tendency that we have noticed is individuals say, well, I could change. I know I could, if only she would change. And in fact, they have it backwards.
I have experienced that myself. I appreciate that particular wording that helps me understand it better.
All right.
When you say that we all contain everything, we contain all the experience that we can experience a linear process, does each one of us contain the same set of experiences?
Well, in a sense, again, we are talking gradations, levels of totality. As ironic as that term actually is, it is all one idea. As we refer to it, all that is, leaves nothing out. And again, one way to look at it is that it is all the same one, all that is, containing every single myriad and nuance of possible experience imaginable, and a few that are unimaginable. So, yes, but as you begin to experience yourself in a gradient, as seeming removed from that totality, each one of you creates the simultaneous apparency, the entire reality is merging into me. And even though that seems paradoxical, that there be more than one focal point that the reality seems to emerge into, nevertheless, that is the way it expresses itself. That is a paradox, an infinite idea being perceived through finite means in discussing it in this way.
Some people have discussed the notion as everything that we experience is a consensus, that other people are willing to share that same experience, the same physicality, or the same view of reality that we are sharing. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in our reality. Is that what you're saying?
That is one way to experience it, but ultimately, your entire experience, each and every one of you, hinges on your decision in the moment. And so your experience of that consensus can drastically alter in any given moment.
I think I understand.
All right. If there is a question, please ask.
There may be a question later on in the interaction.
Well, we would have gotten around to you anyway.
Thanks.
I thank you. Shedding. Don't be shy.
Elan,
Yes.
there are as many ascension processes as there are perceptions, is the way I understand it. Is that correct?
Well, again, anything that you can imagine is true on some level of reality. And the idea of infinite simply means there is no limit. So that would apply to experiences of ascending. Yes. Now, our general approach is to highlight the most self-empowered version of any idea that we are discussing. The version that allows you to be that person with no one else's help. And again, I remind you continually that you already contain it all. Because should you decide to ascribe credit to me, I will not accept it. I am simply acting as a mirror to what you already know. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Not really. Right. It's working with a process called the awakening process.
All right. Describe.
Leaving the bed, moving into a dimensional reality, and ascending and actually leaving the dimension, the third dimension, moving into that fourth.
Now, with the idea of leaving the third for good?
Temporarily.
All right. To experience more of the self. Yes?
Correct.
All right. And bring that back to this particular reality?
After a 4-day transformational state.
4 days. All right.
And moving back into our third dimension to continue on with a 2-week process of a physical transformation based on the cellular change.
All right. Well, that is one way to express it. Again, on a gradient with the process, but ultimately understand in no uncertain terms what we have already shared, which is this. After your certain amount of days and certain amount of weeks, any change that you experience will truly, now the most accurate way to put it is to say that it will result from the decision in that moment and not truly from the process from now till then. So certainly that is one way, one method to express the idea. But allow me to also share something else to clarify something else that we mentioned, which is that your body exists within your consciousness. Individuals will sometimes assume, well, my consciousness cannot shift until my body shifts, until it evolves, till it changes its cellular structure, the expression of its DNA, and so forth. And this is very creative, very useful. Individuals will use that as a pivot. But perhaps you can say the interesting point about it is that mechanically speaking, no matter what, the body does not change first. Any change that would seem to occur in the body on a cellular level, without exception, always was caused by and initiated first by a change in consciousness. So if an elaborate process is what you feel you require to shift your consciousness, no matter what that process is, no matter what degree of complexity it contains to allow you to say, well, I did something, I can now expect a result. The change always first comes in consciousness. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. One does not require outside assistance for that of an ascension process?
Absolutely not, although one can attract that form of it if they wish. All options are valid. All approaches are absolutely equally valid, and we are not discussing our particular point of view to invalidate any other approach, but simply to simplify the idea, simply to define what many of these approaches actually accomplish in a kernel, in a crystal that's right in front of you. And again, not to invalidate the process. So there are an infinite number of processes that an individual or individuals can create. But the point of what I am saying is that it ultimately results in a given moment in your decision, I am now ascended, I am now transformed. And it is the decision in that moment that results in cellular change, that results in any type of physical change that you experience, and not actually the process. And ironically, paradoxically, when you make that decision, when you be that person, whether you use the process as a rationalization or not, ironically, you will immediately realize what I am saying. For one of the first ideas of ascending or being willing to express yourself in a more limitless way is, it wasn't the process, it was me. It was me all along. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So the energies that I feel at night about me are my own consciousness coming into work with my own vibration.
Absolutely. Even the idea of what you call spirit guide or any external manifestation literally exists within you. Now, you can perceive them as other beings to allow you to experience very specific nuances of your consciousness. And by all means, through the physical expression, it is quite a valid idea of assigning, this is this guide, this is this consciousness, this is this energy. But what you have said is truly most accurate. It is all you.
So I'm in charge.
Well, it is up to you. I will suggest that when you experience that, you will say it slightly differently. You will take that question mark, straighten it out to an exclamation point. Because you will simply, in making that decision, be quite definite about it and unswerving, as you say. Rather than saying, well, I create it all. You will say, I create it all. Do you wish to do this?
That is the question.
Only you can answer that one. I can take a stab at it. I can perceive that, yes, you wish to do it, but there is some hesitation, some trepidation, some fear. What is it that you feel could be a negative result of simply taking back your power and creating your life consciously?
The fear would be drawing in unknown energies of unknown origin.
Unknown. So you could discover more of yourself, yes?
Since we are all part of one, yes.
All right. And then perhaps you may revise or consider, I will never insist that you do any of this, simply suggest that unknown origins no longer are relevant when you express that the reality exists within you. There is no outside. There is no origin which is not you. Do you assume that you would intend to harm, frighten, or have a negative result from yourself to yourself?
Not intentionally, no.
All right. Well, what we are speaking of here is conscious intention. No intention slipping in there. When you make the decision, this is your intention. This is your clear intention. So you may now begin to realize that nothing can happen unintentionally unless your decision involves that particular allowance. I assume you wish to experience your transformation in a positive way, yes? Then simply build that into your decision. One of the ideas is to be very specific about what that decision is. And should something come along in your experience that will result in perhaps revising that decision, be willing to use that feedback. But at least be willing to establish who you are from what seems to be available, to make the decision about who you are from what seems to be available, and automatically will you refine it.
Thank you.
Is this of assistance?
Thank you.
All right. Is there still something that you are, as you say in your vernacular, hanging up on?
I have to go along a little bit more. I can come back with more. Thank you.
Please do. And thank you as well. Shedding.
Elan,
Yes.
I'd like to welcome you tonight.
Thank you, and thank all of you, each and every one.
Wonderful having you here.
All right. It is wonderful to be here as well.
Thank you. I'm not sure if this is going to make sense, but if everything that you said to us tonight, and then most everything is something I'm sure everyone here had a pretty clear idea about, then if we are microcosms of the whole, why isn't Mother Earth just making a decision, boom, to change?
Well,
Why is she going through a process like we are?
well, your question contains the answer. For though I have introduced the idea of spontaneous redefinition, changing your entire reality, perhaps you have not quite made that decision yet. But when I say that you will begin to see external reflections across the board, that will include your planet, which is also a consciousness, but again, not apart from your consciousness, within your consciousness. So should you now decide to shift who you are, and perhaps experience a temporal lag in your circumstances, giving you the opportunity to redefine those circumstances from who you now are, once you allow that for what you call a period of time and how you still relate to and create time, you will see the changes you are talking about. But the indecision does truly come from each and every one of you. And you are also assuming that Mother Earth, as you have put it, is taking her time. My particular observation is that the consciousness that you call your planet is right there, ready, and responding perfectly in every given moment. Is there something specific to which you are referring?
Well, part of this change has to do with healing, I believe.
All right. Does your decision create a gradient whereby perhaps individual is unwell, will obtain healing, and then be well? Or can you understand that healing as dis-easing is also a decision made in a given moment? In other words, your question implies a process, implies stretching out the result from the decision. And therefore, your experience is the earth doing the same thing, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, your willingness to simply be whole, which automatically includes the idea of healthful, will then allow your perception of the perfect response of what you perceive to be earth consciousness to shift to see that the earth is already doing this. If this does not make sense, please continue.
No, it makes sense.
All right. You do not sound that thrilled about it. I assume, perhaps I'm out of line, I assume that once you grasp the idea of your empowerment being right at your immediate disposal, that you might just be a little bit excited.
Elan, this transformation is...
One moment. Are you through?
For now, yes.
All right. No need to be sorry. Proceed.
This transformation that's taking place from third to that of fourth, the way I understand it and what I've read, is to that of a galactic human. Can you expand on that?
Well, that is simply one way to look at it. When you are less contracted as an individual and become more expanded in your expression, you shift your reality completely. There seems to now suddenly be a mass expansion as well. And when you are slightly more willing to consistently be response-able for your actions, not blaming, but able to respond in a self-empowered way, you will be more alike any quote-unquote extraterrestrial life that would quote-unquote make it this far. When you are being a particular way, you attract other individuals with a similar exploration. Whether it is the same or opposite, you attract the support to completely explore that idea. What you refer to generally as extraterrestrial consciousness is far more willing to honor your sovereignty as an individual than any of your media is giving it credit for. Therefore, the idea of interference, whereby an extraterrestrial would present themselves in such a way where they would seem to be lifting up a less powerful being, where they would seem to be assisting a being who could not do it themselves, that notion runs contrary to the consciousness of the extraterrestrial, or perhaps in this case, galactic community. So therefore, once you walk your talk, once you are responsible for your reality, once you place the invitation out of a desire for mutual co-creation and enjoyment and exploration, you will very quickly see evidence of a galactic community, and then therefore by extension understand yourself not to be accepted into that community, but that you already are a part and an expression of that community, and always were. And simply were being honored as you created a contracted process by that community. Does that address the point?
Yes. So the galactic community now forming on this earth in terms of consciousness, will there be, or how many races will there be here on earth?
Do you mean from other points of other than your earth?
Yes.
Many. I will not put a particular number on it, but perhaps you may understand there are many thousands of different civilizations, many of which are able to interact with your society, though it may seem at first to be just what you refer to as 2 or 3. Again, the most likely idea is there will be one particular society that you will become aware of first, simply because you still create a linear idea. But your future is not etched in stone. The decision you make in any now moment determines from the infinite number of probable futures which particular idea you will experience.
So the most likely to form here first would be that of human-looking form. Is that correct?
There are 2 particular ideas. One is somewhat human-looking, one is not. But I prefer, for specific reasons, not to be any more specific than that. It will depend upon, this is a play on words, but it is quite accurate, how alien you perceive that they will be. And how alien you perceive your own consciousness to be, rather than comfortable and familiar.
My perception is there will be many, and they won't be of all human form.
Yes. That is my perception as well. Oh, thank you. I have done nothing. Shedding. Ace.
I want to talk a little bit about health.
All right.
Because I seem to be manifesting dis-ease.
Describe, if you wish.
Sinuses. It's been going on for months and months and months, and I'd like to make it, something that would be of general interest, but it's pretty specific.
Well, the idea is that your sinus cavity is very, shall I say, sensitive to electromagnetic changes, other than just ragweed. Because of a particular substance in your sinuses known as magnetite, which is, in that sense, part of your sense of spatial orientation. So the idea is that you may now be more sensitive to any changes that are occurring. However, you need not experience the sensation of these changes in negative terms. So you can now introduce the idea to yourself of allowing yourself to be aware of changes without resisting those changes and causing friction and pain. Now that is the more general idea. The other idea is to not allow any particular event, pain, discomfort, to alter your decision. I assume when defining yourself, your definition, your decision includes feeling physically well. Yes? All right.
Most definitely.
So when you maintain that decision, any particular sensitivity is very short-lived. When you use that friction, that discomfort as evidence to create the decision, well, I now must be sick, then you actually perpetuate a process which is generally rather fleeting if you notice it at all. So to keep on subject, so to speak, reestablish and maintain the decision of who you are very specifically. To include the idea of, I am not sick, but that I am well. Not running from what you don't prefer, but simply being what you do. And this is why we had said earlier that although you can, you need not establish who it is you are being that you no longer prefer in order to be the new you.
So you're saying I don't have to go, why am I creating this? And I don't have to go through that process. Just decide that I am healthy.
Absolutely. And you may wish to even be more specific than that, because if the decision specifically reflects who you are and what you wish to do, you will be so busy that the seeming, shall I say, recovery period will simply be immediate, automatic, and you will forget all about it.
What? Say that again?
Instead of simply, I am healthy, have the decision be completely who you are. I am this person who enjoys this, who expresses that.
Okay.
And in willing to be that whole person, there is no fragmentation or dis-ease in the process. And you become busy being that person rather than sitting around and feeling your sinuses. Does that make sense?
You're watching me, huh?
Oh, no, no. Your privacy is completely intact.
I'm just sitting around. No, right. No, I do see that.
By the way, one other idea. If you are sensitive to electromagnetic changes and are physically static, you do give yourself more opportunity to perceive that sensitivity in a negative way. If you are moving about, you are allowing the sensitivity, you are allowing the energy to move through you rather than well up in that sense of the word.
I noticed that if I was physically active, that there was definitely a relief.
All right, then to use your language liberally, see you later.
I actually feel better now.
All right.
I haven't been breathing in months.
All right. Well, you have changed your decision, and you have demonstrated in no uncertain terms that you get that decision. And I thank you. At this timing, we will pause for a short break of approximately 10 to 15 minutes of counting of your time and resume contact at that timing. All right, I'll say. One moment. The entitlement for this evening's interaction will simply be the decision. Before we proceed, allow me to simply make a simple distinction which we have shared before, and you will find quite helpful. It is along the lines of what we have already discussed in terms of maintaining the decision for who it is you prefer to be. And in mentioning that you already do this anyway, that your reality is already the result of any decision that you make. And this is nothing new to you. The same thing very directly applies to trust. Now, as we have said, you decide who you are. You make the decision. Then you trust that decision. Then you act as though you trust that decision. And voila, linear reality result. In terms of trusting the decision, understand in no uncertain terms what you call faith, what you call trust, which is perhaps slightly more intentionful than faith, is not something that you need to gain. Trust is not something you need to muster up. The reason being because you already trust 100%, even if it is in a reality that you do not prefer. So you do contain it all, and in containing all of it, you always already trust in something. So you do not need to gain trust, but simply be aware that you always trust in something and be more conscious and purposeful about what you will choose to trust in. Trust is something you always have. You are always placing it somewhere. You can remind yourself, well, look where I am placing my trust, but in a sense that is looking backward. You can also simply just say, all right, I understand, I had negative decision, I had negative trust. This is my decision. And since I will trust in something, why not the decision? So with that distinction and on that note, we will continue with the sharing. Sharing.
Elan,
Nice.
I had an experience recently with swimming with the dolphins.
Oh, how exciting. Do share.
Well,
The other sentient species upon your planet in the way that you define sentience. Do proceed.
I just enjoyed it very much, and I was wondering what your thoughts were about dolphins, actually.
Well, in a sense, your planet is quite fortunate from one way of looking at it in that the first extraterrestrial species that you have interacted with is actually intraterrestrial. Dolphins are very, very similar in style of sentience as what you call human. And therefore, although they have many differences, are intelligent, self-reflective, thinking, conscious beings. And your willingness to begin to expand your particular definition of who you are to allow for more and more and more experience of different aspects of yourself, whether they be similar or quite different, often will begin with the advantage of that you have as a society of having that species in your own backyard. So it is very exciting, and invariably individuals who seek out and express that experience do so out of an innate willingness to begin to expand your definition of yourself, of your reality, of your experiential universe. So how was it?
It was one of the best experiences of my life. It was terrific.
What did you enjoy about it? What did you find most enjoyable and agreeable about it?
Well, I just connected with them in a very emotional way. I felt part of them, they felt part of me, and we were playing. We were playful and joyful, and just being.
All right, now that you have added to your roster of options this particular approach, do you plan or have you begun to express that in your daily life? Understanding that the experience came from you, with the reflection of the external being, but truly 100% from you. And being that you find that most agreeable, most exciting, are you willing to begin to apply it to what you call your fellow humans?
I try every day, but I must admit that some days is harder than others.
Well, all right, well, trying. All the trying is not the doing of the thing, but merely the doing of trying, which is one step removed from being completely committed. So perhaps when you are defining yourself, when you are establishing the decision, that you can then refine that decision to simply be willing to seek out and experience that type of communing with everyone that you see, no matter what their response may be.
That's very good. Thank you.
All right. Quite neutral to me, but I understand what you mean. It is the positive perspective that you contain. However, you only created that experience with your inherent ability to create that experience. And what I am suggesting is that rather than trying to do that with everyone else around, implying that it will be quite difficult and probably not work, you can simply understand, now that I know what this feels like, my decision is this is how I choose to relate to other individuals. Period. No matter what they say. For what you will notice is that The dolphin consciousness, as you interacted with it, was quite unconditional toward you. And though it appeared to perhaps that you were experiencing that from them, truly the only way you experience anything is to create your version of it. So it was you, your energy. And that energy is available anytime. How exciting.
Extremely exciting. Thank you.
All right, dive into your reality. If you wish, we will never force you to have too much fun or enjoy yourself too much. Do proceed. Shutting.
Elan?
Ice.
Well, as long as we're on the subject of enjoyment, when you come here to do this, this is very enjoyable for us.
Oh,
Are
right.
you experiencing that also? Do you sense love and enjoyment back at you?
Absolutely. I create my version of it, which could appear, when looking at my reality in linear terms, to be love from you. Now understand, in my decision of who I am, there is no lack of self-love. I completely 100% love myself and others and reality and circumstance 100% with the complete trust that I created and its very existence is to support my experience. Though when I interact with you, I can create that awareness. And so what you would perceive as your emotion toward me, I create my version of and have an experience. And I am simply explaining the mechanics. In other words, the long-winded answer to your question is yes. With a little explanation. Understand one other thing, if you wish. Whatever you perceive that you get out of this, I get just as much out of it. I understand in no uncertain terms that you all exist within me. And as I am willing to interact with different aspects of my own consciousness through seeming external others, I then learn more about myself. My particular society's approach is different than your own. And we are not exploring the types of limitations that you will often choose to explore. Therefore, we do not generally interact with that aspect of ourselves on a daily basis. Interacting with your society affords me the opportunity to begin to look at some of those ideas, although always do I do so from my empowered self. What I am getting at is that the favor that you are doing from my end to me is immeasurable. And it allows me to understand myself on a very complete level, apart from the mass general experience of my society. My society also happens to be very interlinked, and I will say tele-empathically as opposed to tele-apathically, for empathy implies that you create your version, experience your version, but you can, in that sense, mold your version so closely to the intention of the seeming others that it seems that you are reading their mind. It seems that you are in touch. What technically is going on is we are creating the same thoughts at the same time. And therefore, anything that is to my awareness, for anyone in my society who is so inclined, they too immediately have that experience and interact with it from their particular individual point of view to reflect back to themselves as well. So not only do I get something out of this, but so do the many members of my society who are so focused in that type of self-expression. And we thank you. Shutting.
Elan,
Ice.
Hahatu.
Hatu.
I thank you for that sharing you just gave us. I really enjoyed that answer.
All right. I thank you for enjoying it and creating the enjoyment.
So I've been sitting in this room for over an hour, and I've been sensing Bashar the whole time. I see him in my mind's eye, sat reclining in a chair. I guess I would like some validation, or I'm just wondering where he is.
Will you allow me to use your language liberally?
Yes.
We're buddies.
So he's there with you right now.
At this particular time, there are several individuals present. He is one, yes. He is, by the way, very busy all the time. Can barely nail him down, to use your vernacular. Fortunately, we always are in touch.
Could you also tell me what you did with your day today?
In this particular day, I have done several things. One was I involved myself in a energy exchange with other individuals of my planet, perhaps very loosely speaking, perhaps what you would simply refer to as having a game of catch with a bowl of energy. That is a very loose interpretation for now, for the imagery that it will allow you to create, it will do. I also have, in that sense, interacted within my spacecraft in taking certain readings from what you would call other various individual society that we are communicating with at this time. And then you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I just become real interested in the Pleiadians civilization and understanding that they're human form like we are, and I'm enjoying their perspective on life, which is very empowering. I guess that I feel like when I need to be empowered, when I'm not being my essence, I will put a tape in of you guys or pick up a book of the Pleiadians, and I just wanted to say that I'm sharing, becoming more aware of who I am and my spirituality, and I'm having fun with it.
All right. I thank you for your willingness to share that and understand your galactic family is quite intact, and on that level, you are already creating interaction with them. You will notice earlier that I said that we will not interact with you in a way that would be a disservice to you or seem to imply that you are disempowered. And that is one of the reasons for what you call channeling phenomenon. It allows us in a very seemingly removed way to communicate with you and still allow you to make your own decisions, still allow you to have your own choices, still allow you to create either your trust or place that trust in the form of what you refer to as doubt. Therefore, it is still completely up to you to believe that I am who I say I am. I in no way have any insistence that you do. But if you are to, you are beginning to become more familiar with your galactic family. And we thank you.
Thank you very much.
Shedding. Ace, male, then female.
I assume you knew I was here.
All right. If that is your decision, I will abide.
It's been several months since I've been able to ask you, where are you? And in a sense, Tracy already asked that, but might you be on your mothership for a change?
Well, I might be, but I'm not.
Okay.
At this particular moment, I am upon the face of what you would refer to as my planet.
Oh, you're actually there, not in your spacecraft.
Ice.
Gosh, that's unusual.
Not really. What you refer to as projection table, and again, this is very loose, also occur upon the planet from time to time, though perhaps you would refer to them as, and I mean this quite loosely, portable tables.
I have the idea that roughly 70% of your population, 250 million total, might normally be off the planet.
From time to time, this is the case. This will vary. There has recently been, for lack of a better translation, a celebration.
Can you elaborate?
Simply that many of us are finding ourselves physically proximal to each other or on the planet at the same time. And while we're there, all right, I will use your language once again. This does not quite translate. We like to party. Now, the reason that it does not translate is because our entire attitude and life has that type of allowance in it. So there is not the distinction, I am partying now I am not. We are always, in that sense, expressing joy and ecstasy, which one way to interpret into your language is partying.
Is it dancing, singing, music?
Not in the way that you understand, but perhaps a version of that from time to time will spontaneously arise, as does everything that we do. This is why I hesitate to call it a celebration. It is not that formal and quite spontaneous.
Let me switch over to, I understand the law of attraction. Likes attract likes. The reason I bring this up.
By the way, what you put out is what you get back. And in that sense, likes will seem to attract likes. But you attract everything that will support your decision. And certain things will be in sync or alike your decision to allow you to see, this is me, here's a reflection of me. But you also, in that you are still linear and utilize this tool, generally also surround yourself with examples of things that you are not to stand out in relief. Now, as you begin to more consciously and purposefully retain your decision in a positive way, your statement like attracts like will seem to be more accurate. For you will no longer define yourself with so many examples of what you are not to remind yourself of who you are.
Well, for the moment I'm talking about people attracting people, and more specifically, within the last several months, Tracy and I have come together in a very close, loving friendship. And so I understand, I guess, why that would be the case. But more specifically, could you say anything about maybe our history in past lives being at all special, or that we knew each other? Anything at all you can add would be...
All right. You have, in that sense, had past life experience together. Period. I will allow you, through your own sense of discernment and through your own sense of excitement, to understand and create your version of what that means. But in that sense, you need not ask me for that type of validation, and may understand that your feelings are trustworthy. Your vibrational understanding is accurate. And also many individuals, loosely speaking in your so-called group, are beginning to mutually support each other in understanding that as you co-create your reality according to your passion and excitement with integrity in a positive way, it's fun to have friends around.
Well, that feeling of loving family has definitely been growing, it seems to me, noticeably in the last several months.
You will find all others in this room have a similar version of that idea. And as you are willing to establish who you are, your relationships with others will also clarify as well. And as you are unwilling to commit to the decision of who you are, or continuously alter and change the decision of who you are, that uncertainty, that ill-defined perception also then becomes superimposed upon your relationships.
I will ponder your answer. Thank you very much.
I thank you as well for your willingness to put yourself out and take yourself back. Female.
Yes, I wanted to know if you would share more with us about the other civilization you've been communicating with today.
All right. The civilization that I was taking the aforementioned readings on do not express themselves quite in the physical terms that you are accustomed to. They are, perhaps you can say, energy beings that still have the ability to express physical manifestations. Those physical manifestations are instantaneous and instantaneously responsive to the slightest change in consciousness. So our perception of them occurs through the idea of the physical manifestations. And we are able to directly interact with them, what you call telepathically. But we can also communicate to them through what you call observation, by simply taking a measurement or a reading or an observation of their particular physical manifestation along what you would refer to as a linear timeline. We can translate by interpretation of the physical symbols their intended message. And it is an interesting perhaps you can say, game that we play. Did this translate at all?
Oh, yeah, it did.
By the way, there are many beings like this, but this particular society we are in proximity to, and they are also, perhaps you can say, from their point of view, taking in and relishing certain approaches that our society have as well. In fact, some of the physical manifestations that they have in effect manifested are temporarily similar bodies to our own, but only for fleeting moments. In other words, they are trying us on, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Okay, so they're creating body forms as one of the forms, but
Spontaneously and generally fleeting, very quick.
okay.
Now, one way that we can communicate back to them along those lines, when not automatically directly linked, what you would call telepathically, although that is not particularly accurate, I will not go into the details. We can also create energy manifesting as physical events and have a conversation from one set of physical events that they are creating to another set of physical manifestations and results that we are creating. And I, in that sense, was functioning, perhaps you can say, very loosely speaking, as secretary for the event. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's cool.
Oh, all right. Actually, it is quite temperate.
Okay.
All right.
Nope.
Is there anything else?
Nope.
All
Not
right.
right now.
Is there anyone else who would like to share?
Elan,
Yes.
you being a mirror image as to me as I am to you.
Yes.
Well, I'm real happy about that.
Well, so am I.
I really like that.
Well, all right. I thank you for honoring yourself so completely.
I have a question. This might be too much of a personal question. I hope not for the crowd.
We trust the synchronicity of whatever we attract, and when you are all willing to also entertain that idea, simply nothing will be extraneous in your reality. Do proceed with the trust that the timing is impeccable.
Thank you. I am in the process of wanting a divorce from my husband.
All right.
Without a condition. And I'm having a hard time with that because I'm not giving him a reason, and that's not acceptable to him.
Would you, in a similar circumstance, desire a reason?
Well, I know, see, I'm looking at it as though he is an aspect of me.
All right. Before you proceed,
Okay.
answer my question.
Go ahead again.
Were the shoe to be on the other foot, would you desire a reason?
Well, yeah, I guess.
Why?
Well, I mean, it should be obvious, I guess.
Well, so that you can grow and learn from the experience, yes?
Yeah.
What is your reason for depriving him of that opportunity?
As far as explaining to him,
Yes.
um,
So that he may learn and grow or do whatever. Your responsibility is simply to make the communication, not to be responsible for his reaction.
okay.
But why do you assume that he has attracted such a situation that he cannot handle?
Because he won't acknowledge when I say that I want a divorce or to leave. I basically say it's just not bringing me joy, and we don't ever do anything together, and there's no supporting of each other, and it's just, I don't know.
All right. What will you do?
Well, I don't want to, I'm so stagnant, and it's not bringing me joy, and I know that that's not,
By the way, ironically, being indecisive,
Right.
technically speaking,
decision.
is a decision.
Right.
Is a decision, which is distinct from not making a decision and making one.
Got you. I was going more on the wanting, I guess. I was focusing on the joy and wanting to take the action, not the decision. So it's the decision that comes before the wanting?
Not necessarily, but assuming that the wanting has already been forthcoming, the decision would be next. And in fact, again, you have made a decision to remain stagnant.
Yeah, I don't want to.
All right. Well, you tried that one on. Now what will you do?
Make a decision
All right.
to act.
Congratulations. You have transformed your reality spontaneously and completely. How does it feel?
Good.
All right.
Thank you.
I simply suggest that no matter what you do, and I would not advise you as to one specific idea or another, that your decision be phrased in such a way, listen up, all of you, whereby the wording does not contain any nuance of what you don't want or who you no longer wish to be, and simply is the establishment of who you are, so that you are not running from who you were, you are not running from any negative idea, but are simply walking to who you are, and thereby, by convention, distancing yourself from any former decision. But the hint of running away from something still contains the idea of that something very strongly. And since you cannot get away from anything, you contain it all. It simply is the new decision and not the old decision. Understand the distinction? All right. Shedding.
I want to understand this, that we're creating our own reality here. I call it drama. My drama every day is how I choose to see it, whether it is in through relationship with others or within my own space, wherever that is.
All right. Does drama have a connotation, since that is your decision? It is a drama. Does it have a particular negative connotation?
No, just life flow.
All
To
right.
me.
Well, generally speaking, the way that you express your language, drama is very serious. Drama has a lot of interaction that can be rocky. Yes?
Well, let me just rephrase that.
All right. Do understand that your words are revealing. I am not picking on you,
No, I think
but you also have the idea that you can create a musical, a comedy. Do proceed.
in keeping with that comment, I've moved into creating a circumstances and decisions and moving forward into the ascension process. And now I look at it and it becomes very confusing.
Oh,
I'm bringing forth many different perspectives and many different aspects that are very confusing
all right.
because they're new to me.
By the way, co-fusing is simply taking many things that you are now observing and interpreting and simply reestablishing your relationship to them, and ultimately it winds up with a decision between the options, a fusing of your intention. Is there a particular idea or perspective that you find confusing?
Yes, I have a few.
All right.
In some of the information that has been brought to me, I don't understand some of the information regarding spiritual hierarchy / Galactic Federation and how they work in alliance with one another in conjunction with the ascension process.
All right. Allow me to say the following and see if this does not shed some light on this idea. From our perspective, there is no hierarchy. The reason that I explain this emphatically and specifically is because one of the qualities of the galactic community is complete and 100% equality. That does not mean there is not organization. That does not mean there is dispensation of particular actions and approaches, but only through what you would call the human interpretation of our structure does the idea of a hierarchy, because you create your society in hierarchical fashion, become filtered into the interpretation of who we are. From my perspective, there is no hierarchy in the way that you are expressing the term. There is no linear qualitative difference between any job, any approach, any particular duty, if you wish to call it that. And there is complete equality. There is no ascension in the aspect of moving through a set of ranks. There is no ascension in the aspect of moving to a greater ability from a lesser ability as being worse and better. So understand that often when any individual from any society becomes aware of an idea, they initially interpret that idea through their vocabulary, through their present understandings. So for instance, in your past, there have been many predictions of catastrophes, apocalypses, and dire consequence. Now, as I have said, there is no the future, but individuals in that timing were sensing a propensity, were sensing a tendency from the energy available at that moment. However, they interpreted that energy through the means of their societal approach, through the means of what was available to them at that time. Back in those days, things were a bit different upon your planet than they are now. So for instance, they did perceive there will be great change. That was the energy. That was the perception. However, back then, the only way to interpret great change was through a complete tearing down of the present structure, a revolution, a rebellion, death and destruction. And so therefore, rather than simply a perception of change, it was change in their archaic vocabulary. Cataclysm, destruction. So the sensings of the ancient seers and the ancient prophecies were accurate in determining or predicting great change, but were not accurate in determining the methodology. They did not know certain things that would come into play between then and now that would allow that change to occur through individuals, that would allow that change to occur with what you call the 100th monkey mass phenomena. They were not incorrect. They were simply interpreting it through the means available to them at the time. A large propensity of human consciousness still can only function, can only imagine a society functioning through a hierarchy. Otherwise, there'd be chaos. And although there is still organization when you are a physical being, it is not perceived through a hierarchical filter. So therefore, again, anything that you attract is a perspective, and you get to choose. If you simply understand that all the voices that you hear are choices that you hear, then you get to choose. That includes any other idea that you have heard, which apparently is not sitting very well with you, or any idea that you now attract, whether it be my perspective, which is your perspective, the timing for you to reveal your perspective to yourself, or any other means that you attract your knowledge, your realizations to yourself. It is always up to you to choose. And my suggestion is to trust what is comfortable to you, to trust what you're vibrating at, what excites you, what moves you. No one else is an authority until you, in your decision, build in your agreement to what they are saying. That is the only thing that seems to create external authority, and of course, by convention, by extension, hierarchy. Individuals that truly begin to express their self-empowerment have no desire to have anyone else follow them, to take care of them. For that taking care of does not completely acknowledge their power. Perhaps it would be more that a master would be the first one to tell you that you're a master and would do nothing for you, though perhaps the way that you would interpret their actions might loosely translate to a coach. Is this helpful, or are you even more confused?
That on tape again. Thank you.
Oh, if there is something that comes up as still being unclear, ask so that the answer to that will be on your tape as well.
Well, my perception is that we're all created equal, and there is no hierarchy, and we're all lateral.
Now, do understand You contain it all. You can say there is a hierarchy or there is not. But if you wish to be accurate, there is a hierarchy and there is not. Now you get to choose. Not negating, not invalidating hierarchical approach, but simply choosing something that vibrates more strongly to who you know yourself to be. Which is to say, I validate that there are hierarchical expressions, but that is not my approach. Now, when you said to me, I believe in equality, I believed you. I will not call you on that. The conviction was evident in your expression. Now, the question is, you're going to trust in something anyway, like I said. Will you trust in your own knowingness? Or will you fall into agreement with someone else's story?
That is the question.
Oh, thank you. Do understand that a question is simply an answer upside down. So the answer is right there.
Everything's fine with you, Elan. That's great.
Oh, thank you. With you as well.
Thank you. With the photon belt, is that also a perception?
There is a physical counterpart to it, but it does not necessarily have the effects that have been predicted for the many photon belts that have supposedly already intersected with your reality. There is not what you would call the negative effect from it unless your decision places you of a vibration to experience negative effects in general, and therefore anything that you experience, you will tend to experience the negative aspects of. Understand what you call photons, simply in your own language, in your own physics, are simply light, particles of light. Light in and of itself is a very high vibratory expression of consciousness. That consciousness is very raw and reflective. So therefore, it mirrors your decision.
In my knowingness that that light is transformative, and anything in its way will transform.
All right, that's one way to look at it. But the idea is that the transformation begins from within you, and you then attract a symbol that you refer to as transformative. The light does not transform you.
Possibly I could meet that light and be at the same vibration.
Or simply allow yourself to have a shower when it comes by.
Golden. Thank you.
But the idea is, again, you are the light. You are the light. Period. And the light can represent, or the light can represent the unconditional love of all that is. And all that is what you refer to sometimes as God. Loves you unconditionally no matter what you will decide for yourself at any given moment. So simply you can choose to treat yourself with the same respect.
One more. Roles. Are we here specifically to take on specific roles? And I know it's a perception. However, there seems to be a lot of it in that feeling center for most people, that there is a specific purpose here for all of us.
All right, but that supposition is a decision. So yes, you can absolutely experience that result and that reality. But that is not because anything was predestined or preordained. It is simply for whatever reason you falling into agreement with it. Truly, you are a 100% spark of creation at every given moment who cannot easily be buttonholed into a particular role. You may assume roles to explore certain ideas, but when you decide consciously who you are, when that decision is a function of your preference, then the roles that you would assume in order to experience will be positive roles. You are not stuck in any role. And playing through something you perceive that you created as an experience ends or transforms the moment you make the new decision, with no exceptions. And if the new decision is, I am that same person 1 moment later, you are. Absolutely. If the new decision is, I no longer choose to express a hierarchy which results in me feeling lesser and there being a greater to aspire to, again, wording it in the positive, but to use it as an example, that I am an equal to all of creation. I choose to express that equality in everything that I do, and therefore I choose to perceive that quality in others as well, then the veil of hierarchy will dissolve. Understand?
I understand.
All right.
So as this planet is evolving in its frequency, as yours is, as you say, you're moving into...
Well, we do not necessarily consider it an evolution, but simply a conscious movement. But do proceed.
Okay, well, let's just say for the purposes of the tape, conscious movement of all, the universe, it's being affected. This earth is affecting all.
Well, from your perspective, absolutely. For as I have said, when you change yourself, everything seems to change. Remember, everything is multidimensional and infinite and eternal. Everything contains an infinite number of facets and aspects. You, in experiencing linear reality, do not truly have the experience of interacting with the entire infinity of facets. You attract the perception of facets of any individual that is relevant to your particular decision and exploration. So as you begin to change your decision, as you begin to manifest your new decision, you interact with the corresponding facet of any other thing that you consider to be external. And so, yes, the entire universe seems to change because you are now operating through a different set of facets with the infinite potentiality. Does that make sense, or is it too confusing?
No, I understand, but is there ever one perception?
Well, the perception that you would refer to as the perception of all that is at the same time a multiplicity and yet one perception. And that becomes slightly difficult to translate, for it is an infinite concept, and you are at least now choosing to perceive through a finite point of view. So the answer is yes and no. And as you begin to expand your consciousness, expand your acceptance and allowance of more of yourself, you will find that paradox becomes the rule and not the exception. And that truly, since you contain it all, it is never this or that. It is always both. And that always puts you right back into the center to choose between them with absolutely equal ability. All right?
Yes, thank you.
I thank you as well. What will you do?
Either this or that. I don't know.
All right. Do you wish to be more definite about it, or would you like to think about it?
No, I won't say in thinking. I'll make decisions.
All right. Have you made one?
Yes.
Do you wish to share it?
Is to stay with what's in my center and make those decisions from that center of my being at all times.
All right. You can never stray too far from yourself. For everywhere you turn, there you are. And so your willingness to simply be more direct about knowing that no seeming external person can possibly know you better than you know yourself will allow part of your decision to be the certainty that you are now willing to honor who you are and settle for nothing less. No matter what you do.
Nothing's wrong, everything's right. It's always choice.
Everything's perfect, a perfect manifestation of whatever it is, yes. But beginning to exercise choice consciously is the only thing that if you embrace and begin to express will immediately and fully transform your entire reality. You can do it on a gradient if you feel that completely transforming would be too sudden. But when you do it on a gradient, you are simply making decisions closer and closer to the you wish to be, so that you don't have to be all that you at once. And ultimately, where do you end up? That you. So you get to decide, would you like to take the scenic route? Or would you like to simply beam yourself up, so to speak?
Is that another process, beaming? I don't want to know.
Well, you do. But I won't tell you. The idea is that there are many creative, physical opportunities in your future, and your particular fiction will often predict future reality.
Speaking of futures, you're a futurist of Andrew, is that correct?
Well, in a sense.
That's what I heard. Right.
My particular reality, planet, experience vibrates at a completely different time flow than your own. Approximately, for the purposes of comparison, 10 times faster. So what you would perceive as 10 of your years would play out in my reality as 100 years of history, although our particular relationship to time is far different from your own. So from your linear point of view, it would appear that we are in the future, but because we are already on a more accelerated time frame in comparison to your own, we cannot perceive each other. And so literally there are universes within a grain of sand. There are an infinite number of overlapping ideas or dimensions. They separate each other by wavelengths. And one of the expressions of the wavelengths is the flow of time stream. From the channel's point of view, I could appear to be a future incarnation. From my point of view, he could appear to be a past self. But our realities are not in that type of sync for direct comparison.
Well, you've thrown a warm blanket around the ascension process. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. What a lovely image. Covering yourself with more of yourself. All right. Shedding. Ismail.
Could you speak a little about Prime Creator, or God as we know him, or her?
All right.
And whether or not this is that this energy is a personal or a non-personal form.
It is both. It is the idea of everything, and that is why we refer to it, rather than nailing it down to a specific, as simply all that is. In one way of looking at it, it can be perceived as impersonal, but just as valid, it can be perceived as a distinct, self-aware, singular consciousness. And understand, you seem to experience yourselves as sparks of perhaps the infinite white light that you would call all that is, or God. From the point of view that you have, anything that you experience is automatically something that the overall light, that the overall all that is can experience. So the proof, if you wish to call it that all that is can be a self-aware singular consciousness, is the mere fact that you experience yourself in that way. On the other hand, you experience yourself in a finite way, and all that is can create that awareness, but also has the awareness of everything else. So the idea of singular awareness really takes on quite a different meaning. One way to express all that is physically is unconditionally loving white light that permeates all creation, that is all creation, and at the same time is its own sentient self. Now, if this is confusing, again, it is because we are discussing infinite terms through finite means. Is there some specific question that you have in this regard?
How about, does this personality actually travel into the realm of time and space as we are now?
There is an apparency, while you are exploring linearity, of a continuation of seemingly a singular persona. But as you begin to expand, you less associate yourself as only that persona, and you begin to associate yourself as also that persona. Does that translate?
Yeah, but I think more what I was asking is, as the personal form of Prime Creator or God, does that personal form travel into the realms that we travel into?
Well, you are speaking very arbitrarily, for it is an infinite creation. And within that infinite creation, at the same time that there is the concept of time before, during, and after, there is the overall concept of timelessness, which is eternal nowness, multiple spontaneous incarnationness, or anything you wish to call it. So what you are saying is available as a reflection. But what you are discussing as all that is much larger. And again, even this term, any term that we use bumps up against comparisons that do not inherently exist. for larger and smaller still implies.
Okay. So, trying to put this all together, I assume then that it is possible that the prime creator could assume a physical body like one of us here has, and we could run into him on the street.
Well, that is one way to put it. Yes, it is absolutely possible if you are continuing to remove yourself as that being. In other words, you are living proof that that is so. Simply part of your definition, part of your decision, is to assume that you are not. Very creative. But do you understand the notion?
I think so.
All right. Infinite does not occupy space. And the idea of existing within the infinite is only a finite way to perceive it, to wrap your finite perceptual mind around it. But infinite, if you were to attempt to view it, pervades every direction on and on into infinity with no beginning, middle, and ending, does not have a beginning, never was not, never will not be, never will be anything less than it already is, and never will be anything more than it already is. For it is already everything. And as I even begin to perpetuate this explanation, you bump up against the boundaries of finite vocabulary.
Okay.
If there is something else specific you wish to pursue, by all means do. I find this quite fascinating.
All right. Well, how I got here was through association with a group called the Hare Krishnas. You're familiar with them?
Yes.
And of course, the belief there is that God, as the original personality, has actually traveled on this world as in human form. Of course, not really human form, but as an apparition of human form.
All right. Understood. And again, that would be accurate in one way of looking at it. But all that is unconditionally loving 100% completely. So understanding those qualities, when you are assessing whether there is a particular individual that would embody this, assumably human, linear, limited qualities, such as judgment, conditional love, would not apply to that being, in my particular interpretation of what all that is. So when you are plugging in the model, does this particular person represent a direct incarnation of God? Then be willing to be clear to yourself what the qualities of God would be and see if that individual, no matter who it is, expresses that degree of complete unconditional love. Since everything is all that is, God. The reason that it is explained that all that is unconditionally loving is because there's nothing outside all that is. So another way to put it is that all that is unconditionally self-loving. And any manifestation that would seem to be less removed in your physical terms from God consciousness would honor 100% completely every aspect of reality, every polarity of reality. Things that would seem to what you call the general human consciousness to be positive and negative would be completely equal valid representations to all that is. Now, I trust your own sense of discernment to plug in that explanation if you even in that sense are willing to entertain it and answer your own question.
Okay.
And I remind you in no uncertain terms that you are such a manifestation. And one can say, well, this individual incarnation of God is more God than that individual manifestation of God because they do this, because they do that. But ultimately, it is inaccurate. You are all equal, no hierarchy, equal members or manifestations or expressions or reflections or spark of the infinite creation itself. What you call judgment, what you call vengeance, what you call punishment, although they exist as concepts within all that is, do not represent the approach of the honoring of the sovereignty of all of creation, of a pure manifestation of the approach of all that is. Does that make sense?
Well, I'm going to have to work on it.
Do you feel that God would vanquish all evil?
No.
Do you think that evil exists, or what you are referring to as evil, outside all that is? That all that is everything except evil?
No, it's just polarity.
All right. Would a direct incarnation of the unconditionally loving white light of creation come and destroy this, destroy that, vanquish this, reap vengeance upon that? Does that make logical sense to you?
Sure, it's part of everything.
All right.
Just as soon do that as the opposite.
All right. Now, how does that answer your question?
Well, it gives me more than I actually asked.
Oh, thank you.
I'll work on that.
All right. Are you through?
Yes, for now. Thank you.
Are you through working on it?
No,
All
by
right.
no means.
Are you through now?
No.
How long will you dangle as a carrot before you your decision?
For as long as I want.
Take all the time you need.
Thank you.
I thank you. There will be time for one more sharing. Sharing.
Yvonne,
Yes.
I wanted to share something. Do you know that this is Chester, my husband? We're married. Maybe you know that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I wanted to say that, I don't know, about 6 or 7 months ago, we completely transformed our relationship.
All right.
And what happened?
You made the decision.
Right. What, and through the awareness of something that you told me or reminded me.
Through your own reflection system.
Okay.
Do proceed.
And that specific awareness was that the present is not a result of the past unless I say it is.
Thank you. Well put.
And so that really worked. We just sort of forgot all those things that weren't working or just moved off of them.
Well, do understand how that fits into the mechanics we have discussed this evening. When you make the decision of who you are, you can simply make it because you're making it. Or you can make it with a justification or a rationalization. If that rationalization is, I am this person because I have done this in the past, you do not actually experience being a result of that past. You recreate that past in the moment as an excuse to make a particular decision in the moment. So there is the apparency, I am affected by the past. But in being willing to make the decision based on who you are, what you prefer, what excites you, with your integrity, then the baggage of the past is no longer relevant to the new decision.
I can't. So really, I just made another choice.
Yes, you always do.
Oh, okay.
Now, if that choice is most agreeable to you, congratulations.
Oh, and it is, and thank you. And I wanted to share that because it almost seemed like your voice came in my head and said that, although I know it wasn't your voice, you know that, the present is not a result of the past. And so I just wanted to share that.
All right, may I ask you a question by way of what you would refer to as, one moment? All right, a testimonial. When you shifted your decision, did the other individual seem to change?
Completely.
A miracle.
Miracles. Yes, it is a miracle.
All right, I am being facetious, for miracles are the rule and not the exception, once you begin to allow your decision to include that definition.
Yeah, it's amazing how people seem to miraculously shift. And someone who you just hated last week, all of a sudden, you're not hating. You know what I mean?
Well, not exactly. But I will take your word for it.
But I mean, it's like a whole 180 degrees from what seemed to be hopeless. Just wait a minute, I'm just going to make another choice.
All right. You recreate yourself 100% in every given moment, and now you have recreated yourself to interact with another facet of any individual that you perceive. And so miraculously they seem to have changed. Simply, you have made the decision. And you are living the fruits of that decision, as you all do with every decision you make, whether positive or negative.
I just wanted to share that.
Oh, thank you. Before we depart, may I proceed?
You weren't going to let me go without...
I thought about it.
I think I'm still reluctant to share a lot of personal stuff in these public sessions.
All right, bye.
For a private...
Oh, all right.
So I'll come for a private session.
But is there not something you wish to say?
Yes.
Do proceed.
From the very beginning, I've wondered how it was that I attracted you into my life. I perceived that you attracted me because I was so drawn to the energy and so drawn to come, and I still am, and apparently attracted you here tonight.
Well, again, as I began, it is a co-creation. We each attract whatever will benefit us the most to support the decisions that we have made, and therefore we function mutually in that capacity.
It is sometimes said that when a student is ready, the teacher will appear, and that certainly seems to be the case in our interaction.
All right.
I wonder what, if anything else, there is in our connection. Is there some connection that I'm not aware about?
All right. So may I assume from your statement that this isn't enough?
Yes, it may assume that this is not enough.
All right. If you were to perceive the most accurate representational answer to that question, rather than looking in your so-called past, the relationship is potential for what you would call your so-called future. Now, not to remove yourself from the moment do I say this, but simply to allow you to stray your gaze in perhaps the more accurate direction.
Has my gaze been in an inaccurate direction so far?
Not necessarily. To further expand upon the answer, simply again, it is our desire to communicate in a way by invitation. And so we have taken you up on yours. Perhaps not in the form you expected, but congratulations for that.
Well, everything that is a part of your teaching, I am working into my life, the decisions I am making, and I am making decisions to do not yet.
Oh,
And I thank you for that.
a decision as well.
Yes, it has been a wonderful experience for me.
May I ask you one last question? All right. How about one more? All right. Did you not request the information that you have received, regardless of whether it was from us seemingly as a reflection or anyone else? Did you not specifically request it?
That's certainly my understanding, otherwise I wouldn't have been here.
But can you be more remembering of a specific time where you strongly made the request? Do not answer. Play around with it. I thank you all for your willingness to co-create this interaction in such a way where we may all share aspects, reflections of each other's consciousness in tandem and in love and joy. Do understand, if there is anything that you perceive that is joyful from this interaction, from what you perceive to be me, pat yourself on the back. It is you. I am merely a mirror and can only reflect back the degree of brilliance from the original source material. So celebrate the recognition in yourself that as you expand, you now attract the means, the methods, the tools, the keys to make the decision consciously. I bid you a most fond and loving good evening.